Time for bed.
But Christmas is tomorrow. I'm too excited to sleep.
Would you go to sleep if I told you a bedtime story?
Okay.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and Mommy and the kids were worried about Daddy when they heard about the bus crash on the radio. But Daddy came home safe and sound, and it was the best Christmas ever.
Yay!
However, everybody on the packed bus died, and their family spent Christmas Day identifying bodies and planning funerals.
What the fuck?
Christmas Carol Catastrophes, a podcast about the oddest Christmas songs ever unleashed on an unsuspecting public, starts November 17th.
No, really. What in the actual fuck?
Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin, well known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am speaking with Philip Catherwood, who is the writer and creator of the audio drama, The Dialogue. Hey, thanks for speaking to me today, Philip.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
And should I give you the full name, Philip, or shorten it to Phil?
No, Philip is fine. Marv.
Yes, that's fine as well. Yeah.
Cool. We've established that. That's good.
You have to establish these things straight away.
Of course, yeah. Philip with one L, actually. I'll put that out there in the universe. A lot of people spell my name with two L's, which is meant to be the proper way with quotation marks, but no, one L.
Well, that's how I've written it on the show notes.
Perfect.
Which, before I'm going to go away straight away from this, but I'm going to tangent straight away. But I've got that, and then I've got the music writer. So is Stephen Catherwood your brother or related?
That's right. Yeah, he is. Yeah, well done for getting that, because his stage name is the Steve Experiment, which is I think we put that on our show notes. So well done for finding him. But yes, that's my brother, my older brother, who is a musician, and he was the first and only person I thought of to do the music when I decided I was doing a audio fiction podcast, and just messaged him up and just told him the premise, and off he went and wrote a theme tune for it.
Great. I mean, it does work really well. It brings it. So anyway, we'll go to the questions as they are at the moment on the thing, as opposed to asking you what your history is or what your knowledge was beforehand, which is what I would normally do. I'm going to ask with the show history. So, where does the story come from? Was the idea originally to be? Did you have an alternative idea for the story, or was it always intended to be an audio drama that it is?
Definitely, it was always meant to be an audio drama, and actually, practicality-wise, that all came first in terms of, so the two actors that you hear in the show, they are my friends, and I live with them. They've actually since moved out since we started recording it, but at that time we were all living together. They were acting. I'm a writer first and foremost, so always wanted to write something for them. One of them bought a microphone just before COVID happened. And that, as soon as he bought that, I was like, this might be something. So even before COVID, when, I know a lot of people were doing podcasts and audio dramas, I thought this might be something to do. And then obviously COVID happened, and it very much was like a lockdown project, and thought, right, well, we can't get on stage. We can't make any short films. Let's do an audio project in our living room. And the idea didn't come straight away. I was just like, I'm going to write something for them for like an audio project. And then I just remember being out for a run. Can't tell you which date or anything it was, but usually when I'm running, I try to come up with ideas or think about writing projects, because to take my mind off how tired I am while I'm running. Yeah. And it was during one of the lockdowns that we had, I think the second one in 2021. during COVID, and just me running around just thinking how mad everything seemed, especially during a second lockdown. It's like, is this life now? Are we just going to have a lockdown every year? Blah, blah, blah. And then I thought like how mad that would seem if I was like telling this to my younger self back in the late 90s or something. This is where my mind rolled away to. And then I thought, well, what if it wasn't my younger self? Because, you know, maybe like he'd be too young and wouldn't really understand what I was talking about. What if I was talking to someone who was my age that I am now, in my it was late 20s at the time, and like what would they make of like the pandemic? When you just say, oh, by the way, there's a global pandemic, it just sounds so dystopian and doesn't sound real. And would you be able to comprehend that? And that's really where it started from. And then obviously during lockdown, you had all the Zoom calls that we got so used to, you know, that we were doing more than ever. And I just thought, yeah, what if you were just chatting to someone online, and then you realize that they actually weren't in your time, they were in the past. And that's very much the basis where the idea came from. And as soon as I had that idea, I was like, right, this is the idea that I'm going to work on with my actor friends.
It reminded me, saying the dystopian future thing reminded me of what is it, Callum's thing about the flying cars. Oh, do we have flying cars? Or I think he says something like that, doesn't he, in one of the episodes? And then I think yes. I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but in the second season, when you've got somebody that's from another time involved, he asks them if they've got flying cars as well. And he's got this thing about, well, it's the future, so we must have this, we must have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you ever remember, let's say about 10, 20 years ago, thinking about the future, and trying to imagine what that would be like, and then thinking about that now and being like, oh, I was so stupid. I really thought we were going to be on jetpacks, or I really thought that like cars definitely would be flying. And then you kind of get just like a weird mixed version. I don't know, you've seen like there's going to be like Uber helicopters, apparently. You know, I've seen like videos of it. Like maybe that's our far future, but you know, so they might be our flying cars. But yeah, that was the whole idea. Like obviously, if you imagine being that character in the 90s, you can imagine what the first thing they would say, you know, and the first thing that comes to their head is like, well, what's the future like? And then being infinitely kind of disappointed with how kind of similar it is. It's only so the two characters, to give a basic premise of the show. There's one character who's in the modern day, which at that time was 2022, and he stumbles upon this guy on an online call that comes through to him. He works as internet tech support. And they both realize that they're talking from different times. So one of the guys, Callum, is in 1999, and that's the gist of it, I suppose. But yeah, like the long running thing of the series is them figuring out how this has happened, how they've been connected.
There you go. You don't need me to ask you what the show's all about now.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
That's, right. That's fine. That's fine. So you developing the show. How did that? I mean, so you come up with the idea of the show, and you want to do something with your two mates that initially, because you're in lockdown, you're creating this.
Yeah.
So did you have the idea all in one go, or did it come over time? Did you have to sort of like develop it a bit more from just, was it just an initial idea of, oh, I want to do this, and then it developed over time? And also, some creative people, when they create these things and they write them, you have like rewrites and other things that you took out. I mean, I think this is interesting for people who might be looking into doing audio dramas, for instance, themselves. Other things that you took out that you thought wouldn't work for it, or would make it not quite what it needs to be, and what made you decide upon those ideas of those bits, if you did have them, to take them out and to stay with what you had?
Yeah, no, well, it's interesting you ask about, I suppose, just the creative process in general in terms of writing, and that's what I want to be known for, if I'm honest. I am a podcast producer just by default, but I want to be known as Philip Catherwood, writer. So basically, I mean, yeah, it was 2021 when I came up with the idea. And as soon as I came up with the idea, I started writing the scripts, and it was just really helpful. Me and my friends, the actors in the show, we've been friends for a long time. We have worked on each. That's how we met. We met like on a theater production. So we kind of have a really good shorthand and good working relationship. So whenever I gave them the scripts, we just did a little script reading in my living room, and they just gave me notes straight away, feedback, and I took that all down. And we did a second reading after that where they like literally changed lines on the spot, that would sit what they thought would suit their characters. So that was how we rewrote the scripts. It wasn't just me kind of going through drafts and everything. It was a really nice, like, they're more comedic actors, I would say. Yep. And they do a lot of improv stuff that they're really good at. So that just helped. It was almost like, you see those comedy movies where you can tell like a lot of stuff's been improv and it's really funny. That's kind of what we did, although we just improv'd a lot until it was written on the script, and then that's the script we went with for the final draft. But it was always, it's interesting you say, did you take anything out? Yeah, obviously those are the things that we took out if it was just generally not a funny line and they made it funnier. But plot wise, I don't know, it all always kind of remained the same. And also it was always written in mind, because I'm not very tech savvy in terms of sound effects, or this is my first audio drama that I've ever done.
Yep.
So I wanted to make it, I don't want to say simple as possible, but just definitely, yeah, I didn't want it to take place in different rooms or different locations. It was always meant to be specifically geared towards an audio adventure, but have it be very, simple, where it's just two people talking. It's almost as if you've like stumbled upon their conversation. However you've done that, like stumbled upon their online conversation and you're just listening in. And they do go to different locations, but usually, they're just talking about that. And that was always the idea of the format of the episode. It would always be them two at their computers talking to each other. And some things do happen. And yeah, the second season goes a bit more barmy. But yeah, I've always tried to stay true to that format where it's literally just a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I asked that as well because of the fact that it's very, it's a show where if anybody's interested and hasn't heard it, it's easy to just binge. I mean, in this culture that we're in now, it's a binge culture essentially nowadays for entertainment. And because the episodes are tight and they're not very long episodes either, you just go in and like you said, it's almost like back in the 70s, which is well before your time, but with a phone call, sometimes you'd have what was called a party line. And what happened then was you'd be on the phone and you can hear other people's conversations going on other phone lines, because that's when you used to have manual operator service. So they used to have like the old little cables that connected one call to another, and they'd accidentally probably have one phone connected to those two call by accident. So they were called party lines back then. So it's almost like you're listening in on another line to these two people, or in the case of season 2, very slight spoiler, 3 people on a call. Then it's like that. It is like you're listening in, and that's why it works really well as an audio drama, because you are listening in.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I can't imagine this being a TV series or a film, even though it's kind of one of the main questions everyone, are you going to write a TV script for it? And maybe I should, like in a career sense as a writer, I don't know, but I really wrote it thinking this is going to be a podcast and only a podcast, because it really feels like it's just back and forth dialogue between people on a voice conversation. And that gets me excited, like thinking this could only be a podcast. You could only tell this story in like an audio drama sense.
Well, the problem is, to give away a bit of the thing, is the fact that they're on a call. So essentially all that you would have, because that's another good thing, is that anything else that happens off the calls, you don't know about. You find out through their dialogue and talking to each other of, oh, I've done this, and I've done this. You don't see that happening because all you get is the call.
Yeah.
So if you had it as a television show or something like that, all you would have essentially are 3 different people in different rooms talking to each other on a phone or a computer.
Yeah. And I suppose if you did transpose it to TV, you know, you would show those like scenes where they do leave their rooms and do some of the things, but I think that would lose a little bit of the magic. I think, you know, I obviously, and I'm glad you mentioned the length of the episodes. That was very deliberate. Like I wanted to make something that was very quick. I was listening to audio dramas and there are like some short episodes around like 15-20 minutes. They're probably the shortest ones, but I was like, if we can get some of the episodes just under 10 minutes, yeah, it's like you say, you can binge it. Or if you're just looking for a quick fix of an audio drama compared to some of the bigger ones, and more power to them. You know, there's some out there, they're like proper anthologies and the episodes are like 45 minutes to an hour. But I think it's just really nice to have the dial up as well, with little bite-sized episodes like I keep saying. Second season is a bit longer. The episodes are about 10-15 minutes on average. But yeah, the first season's much quicker, and that was due to like production wise, thinking, you know, with no money behind it, and we were just doing it ourselves in our living room. It's just like, right, let's get this done as quick as we can to get it out there.
I mean, it's not, you know, it's understandable, you know, that these things would work like that, because even with people who are, you know, top audio drama people, such as Lauren Shippen, for instance, who did the Bright Sessions, incredible series, amazing. Something that she's doing at the moment called Break a Whiskey, that is a show that is at tops about 5 minutes at the most as a show, and that is basically just somebody leaving messages on a almost like a CB radio, right? Essentially, and she's leaving messages on there, and eventually there's somebody responds, but they're only responding by Morse code because they can't talk.
Okay, nice.
So, but they're only short episodes as well. So there you've got somebody who is well known for writing a big production like the Bright Sessions and Bridgewater and things like that. Yeah. But then at the same time, she's experimenting with a shorter length. So in essence, I'm saying that there's room for all of these things.
Absolutely, and that is one of the massive pluses about doing audio dramas and audio fiction podcasts is you're not constrained by length. You can. It's kind of the same as whenever streaming came out. Whatever your thoughts of streaming are now, with the kind of the so many platforms, but that was one thing that really did well for it in storytelling terms. Whenever streaming really became big, was you weren't constrained by length of episodes. They could be however long they needed to be, and that's the same with podcasting as well. So I'm really glad to hear those. There's like little 5-minute episodes happening. That's even shorter than ours. I'm from such a massive writer as well, so
absolutely. So scripting and casting, we know that's basically the two of your friends that you live with. But then you've got the female character in the second season. But cross fingers, she's in the third season as well.
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, like so we did the first season, and I wrote the series just thinking that was going to be it. But we had so much fun doing it, and got such a lovely response from people around the world, which really surprised me. That's another plus about podcasting. You can just reach a global audience so easily. So I was like, I really want to do a second season. I've got a good idea for it. And I always joked that the idea would be you would take the same character from the modern day, and instead of talking to someone in the past, he would talk to someone in the future. And that was always the premise. I just joked that and said, oh yeah. And then people were like, that's a good idea. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So and it was never, like I said, slight spoiler, but it was never the idea to bring the character of Callum back, who is the character in the past. But he is my friend. It was, you know, I wanted to, it's easy access to it, but I was just like, I thought it might have cheapened like the whole first series, because without spoiling anything, like it's that feels like it's a closed ending. But with the time travel nature of the show, I just thought, let's bring him back. But I would only do it if he was further along in time. If he wasn't still in the 90s and we were still making 90s jokes, I was like, right. He comes back and he's in the year 2003. So you can start making early noughties jokes and everything that came along with that era. And they're only like 4 years apart, 1990. But it's amazing how different that era felt. So much happened in between those 4 years that they really feel like you go into the new millennium, everything was like the Matrix and leather jackets and sunglasses. Everyone looked cool, and compared to the kind of innocent feel of the mid to late 90s. So that was the kind of basis for season 2, and keeping with the theme of working with your friends. The character of Dana, played by my friend Amy, who knows David and Craig as well. In fact, I met first in London, then we're all a big friendship group. And whenever I came up with the character of Dana, she was the first person I thought of. And she's worked before with David and Craig as well. So I just knew that would be half the battle of just getting them together. And I knew their kind of relationship would work. And I think it comes off in the podcast as well.
Really does.
Hey, this is Chris from Podtastic Audio, the show that I have created to help you create your amazing podcast. And you are listening to Pods Like Us.
Casting and then music and sound. We've already touched on your brother providing the music, and then sound effects as well. I mean, like you said, there's not much in sound effects, but what you have got there, where does that come from, and how do you get it, basically?
I just use all the free sound effects websites that I find, and that's worked for me so far. I said to you before the show, the third season that we're going to do, I'm hoping to bring a sound engineer on board who I've met throughout this whole process, and he'll hopefully have in fact, I'm pretty sure he does have a library of sounds at his disposal, which will be really nice. But I did all the editing for these episodes, and just needed to get the sound effects. And once again, like I tried to put as little sound effects as possible, just because I knew my limitations as an editor, as a producer, I suppose. But I think I've done okay. I also used Audacity. That's what I used to edit all these episodes. And I've met some podcasters since who have kind of like guffawed at me, went, "What? You did this all on Audacity?" And I was like, it's a pretty decent system to use. And people have been giving me like other tips on what to use. I don't know, but it worked out well for me. I've studied a little bit of editing. I did like a kind of like film and TV course, which obviously gave me Final Cut Pro, and I used to record music as well. My brother's shown me like a bunch of things. He is a musician as well, so it all came in handy when editing this. And so I knew how to kind of manipulate sound effects to make them a little more beefier if I just got like a very simple sound. And there's a lot of little sci-fi sounds in this, which I just find, I don't know, like a wind chime or something like that, and then made that sound sci-fi. So that was good fun. Also stressful because I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, I think it works for the timey-wimey on it.
Say again, sorry.
I think it works for the timey-wimey of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was me getting a Doctor Who thing in there. Well,
I know you'll probably ask what kind of inspirations I have, but Doctor Who is massive. I hope that does show. Yeah, it's kind of like a love letter to Doctor Who, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I also, so I got that. I got elements of maybe Back to the Future in there, definitely with the mention of the flying cars, because But to give it away a bit, I purposely wore a jumper, and the only jumper I've got that's timey-wimey is, and I'm going to have to stand up for this, it's a Christmas one, unfortunately. But
it's nearly the time.
It is Back to the Future.
Amazing. That is an awesome
DeLoreans.
DeLoreans, guitars, flames. Yeah, that's great.
That's it. There we go. Something for the people who watch the video.
Yeah. Back to the Future. Is this going out as a video as well?
Yes. This
I
will be
didn't.
going on.
I didn't know that. I should
Roku.
have done my hair. Oh my god.
Yeah, I now, through a company called Pod Nation, they put this show out on Roku so people can watch it on streaming on television.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, I can't wait to watch that back as well. I thought I was just going to listen to this back. So, oh,
There
nice.
you go. If you've got
Yeah.
Roku, then you can find it on through Roku, and then you find something called Pod Nation, and there's all these shows there to watch. Apparently.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't have Roku, but a place where I'm working for does at the minute, so I might just put it on their screen. It's a theater. There's nothing to do with their theater.
Just put it up. Just put it up there, and then everyone will go, "Oh, look, it's Philip."
Yeah. I'll just advertise my own show in a theater that I work for. That's mad.
So what was it supposed to go in there? Music, sound, and then the logo. It changes per season, doesn't it? So it was one thing one time, and then I did a terrible version of the second season logo as well. So the first season you've got an iPhone or iPhone-esque mobile phone, and you've got the Motorola flip phone, I think it is.
Yeah.
On the first season. And second season you've kept with the iPhone style, the smartphone.
Yeah.
And that's a VR headset, is it?
Pretty much, yeah. It's meant to be like smart glasses. Which have just kind of been announced by a few companies have already, like Google Glass was probably the first one that really. Oh yeah,
because Dana mentions the smart glasses, doesn't she? I think in one of the episodes, does she?
Exactly. Yeah. She does, yeah, in the last episode, and she says they replace smartphones, which I think might happen. I don't know. I hope they do, actually, because I always think whenever I'm going out on my smartphone using Google Maps or something, and you gotta keep looking up and down, I was like, I'd love like some lens or something like that kind of directs me. And I think when Google Glass, it was a few years ago when it was announced, and nothing really came of it, or I don't think it's quite become mainstream. But I think Facebook or Meta have announced a model as well. And what's really funny about that is, so the artist I work with is just from Fiverr, and I kind of scoured through podcasts, lots of podcast artists, and then just kind of find one whose work was just similar to what kind of style that I wanted. And luckily I found him, and he's done both of the seasons. And so I got in touch with him again and said, can you do the season 2 artwork? And like you said, the season 1 artwork was, just showing the two different eras contacting each other, the smartphone and the Motorola flip phone. So I was like, let's do the same for season 2. He's talking to someone from the future this time in 2053, 2052. Oh gosh, I've forgotten. It's 2052. And I was like, well, what could that device be? What would she be calling on? And I thought, well, like an Alexa smart speaker or something like that. And I thought, no, I really think smart glasses will happen. And he sent me back a image of just that looked like sunglasses with kind of screens in it, and it looked really cool. And I was like, I don't know, they just looked like normal sunglasses. Let's do something more futuristic. And the most funny thing that happened was whenever Meta, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg did that announcement, they look like Ray-Ban sunglasses. I don't know if they have partnered with Ray-Ban or something like that, but I was like, oh my God, my artist was right, like. And I corrected him and made him do something that looked proper futuristic. So I've become that character in the show. He's like, what's going to happen in the future? Is it all going to be, like flying cars and everything? And I've become that in my own show. So yeah. But yeah, that's just something I think will happen in the future. And yeah, like Meta has, like, since the show's released, Meta's come out with it. I'm sure there'll be other manufacturers for smart glasses.
You see, they were right with Joe 90 all along.
Joe 90, yeah, that's a great. I haven't seen loads of episodes of Joe 90, but my dad raised me on Thunderbirds, and so I have seen Joe 90, and that's definitely a great shout.
Recording and editing, you've already explained. Mind you, I've seen you it almost looks it's really professionally recorded. It's almost like you record somewhere else because you get really good sound. But was it all recorded at home then, where you are now?
So the first season was recorded in our living room where I'm sitting right now, actually.
Yeah.
And we soundproofed it as much as we could. We just kind of like built an area around us and put some sheets. We didn't do the whole shebang. We just thought, like, this is very DIY. Let's do it like that, and if people complain, they complain, but no one has, and so it sounds a little echoey in the first season, but I didn't matter. I was like, if the writing's good, then hopefully people will just go along with it. But for the second season, I was like, right, let's do it a little more properly. Let's go to a studio. And luckily, my friend studied at Middlesex University doing a sound course. So he just booked the studio, and we did it in one day. Which that's another one where people kind of go, what?
Wow.
But that's how we did the first season. Like me and my friend, me and David and Craig did it all in one evening, season one. And that's just because we were like, let's do it. That's, we're busy with other things. Let's try and get this done. So when it came to the second season, we went in with that mentality. And maybe it wasn't the best idea, but I mean, we got it done. We ran a little bit over time, but not that long. Like, and people were tired and hungry at the end of the day, but we got season 2 done. And thank you for saying it sounds professional. There, you can definitely notice the quality shift in terms of between season 1 and 2. But like I said, hopefully the writing and the actors' performances kind of like take you through that, and you don't really notice as soon as you go into the second season.
But I mean, it works for the first and second season. I mean, the first season, it works in a sense because the whole idea is that they are talking to each other from their own rooms. Essentially, one's in a call center room, and the other one is, one of them actually isn't in a call center because he's going through the lockdown at the time. So he's probably remote at home as well. So they'd have that natural background sound anyway. I don't know where I was going to go, but but then the second season, you've got really, really good. Both seasons sound really good.
Thank you. Yeah, I once again, I manipulated a little bit editing wise and just tried to just tips and tricks that I picked up from actually, just like making sure audio sounds good for whatever project I was working on, whether it was a student project or whatever. And some people did help me with that as well. So just tried to beef up the audio so it didn't sound like we were in our living room. And hopefully, compared to some other audio dramas I've listened to, obviously you can't beat a studio recording, but at least we did that for the second one. And the third one, we'll go into studio again. Hopefully not one day, like maybe just 2 days or something like that. So we can give ourselves some breathing space.
I was going to say, I mean, you reminded me of, and I shouldn't really say this because this is about me, I remember a good few years ago, because I do some songwriting challenges occasionally.
Okay.
Like Form, which is during the month of February, you have to write 14 songs or anywhere up to 14 songs.
Wow. Yeah.
But one year I decided in that period that I'd book one day in a recording studio, a proper one that I used to work at years ago.
Yeah.
And I thought, I can do this. What I'll do is I'll go in there with absolutely nothing at all. And during an 8-hour session, I will make up 4 new songs and record them. And I did get it done, but they're not all that good. Not all of them are that good.
Oh,
but
really?
sometimes I just felt it was a good idea to push myself to see if I could do that sort of thing and see if I could do it. But there's some nice instrumentals there. I
mean, I was going to say that's somehow some of the best albums are made, isn't it? When they're kind of like time constrained or like, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, that Beatles documentary that was on Disney Plus, where you see Paul McCartney writing, or was it Get Back, isn't it? Where he's just like strumming on the guitar. And you can tell they're really tired and they haven't come up with the songs they've needed to. And Paul McCartney said, right, screw it, I'm just going to start writing. And then they all just start jamming. And then that's Get Back, one of their like most famous songs. To link that to what we did, it's just, we knew the constraints of what we were doing. I wasn't paying my friends as actors. I bought them all dinner afterwards. That was like the least I could do. But I was just like, look, we've got the studio for a day. We rehearsed it like hell. We did like script readings over Zoom, and then we did a reading in this living room. This living room is such a dial-up like place. I don't know, but we rehearsed it the day before. So when we got into the studio, we were ready. But I remember we got into the studio, and my friend who studies there, I don't know, someone had left it in a state the night before, so that's why we were delayed. So we didn't start when we were meant to start. So I think that kind of like fed into the anxiousness of the day, because we were already nervous. Like, are we going to be able to do this? And then we ran behind schedule. So, but I'm glad we got it all done. The outtakes are funny. I will say, we're going to release like an outtakes episode, and most of the outtakes are from the end of the day when everyone's getting a little lightheaded and can't remember their lines, or
So did everyone go in separately to do their dialogue separately, or were they playing off each other with all three of them in the same vocal booth?
No, they were. So the studio we used was actually a music studio, so there wasn't really much in the ways of separating them, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted them beside each other, and that came with its own. I'm sure this is maybe like an episode of how maybe not to record a podcast, but if you want to make it more difficult for yourself, but things I'm learning all the time. Yeah, but I mean, we did the first season. The microphone had a two-way directional thing, so they were in the same room. So I was like, let's do the same for season 2. Sorry, but like you said, it's the way the dialogue is and the way they interact with each other. They really bounce off each other and cut each other off a lot. And that's the way. That's very deliberate the way it's done. So I was like, no, they have to be in the same room. And then I got the three separate microphones. I got them sent to me, but they didn't match up. And I don't know what happened. Like I've never had to do this, but like I said, it's first audio drama. And I asked the guys, and they were like, no, it should match up. So anyway, I had to kind of just put them in right beside each other, and then really like manually like splice it until the audio really matched up. It really should have been done apparently automatically, but that took a long time at the very start of editing. I'm sure I bet you the sound engineers listening to this now going, maybe even yourself, Marv, would have been like, you could have just done this. And maybe I'll message you in the future, Marv, for any technical help, actually.
I think there's some better people to contact than me, probably.
No, I'm messaging you, Marv. You sort of like the sound issue we had just before this call. I don't mean to spoil, but yeah, like we what happened, Marv?
All because the Wi-Fi box was next to the mixer for the microphone.
Yeah.
That was all it was.
It did sound like I know you were recording from the start. I definitely take like a sample of that sound, because it's so funny. Like it happened for when you're talking to me about this show about miscommunication, or like connecting to different times and different places, because it sounded quite eerie, and it sounded like a bunch of people talking all at the same time. And I was like, is that what Wi-Fi sounds like? Is that
That's true.
That's the true sound of Wi-Fi?
I'm going to have to put that in post.
Yeah, go for it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm giving you extra work to do, but it was quite creepy. It was quite eerie, but cool. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got that to do now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Edit this all out. Edit. I don't know what you want to do.
So welcome to And Volume for All, a deeply reverent and lovingly irreverent exploration of the history, philosophy, and future of the greatest music in the world, heavy metal. I am your cinnamon host Crunch, I guess. Quinn.
Recording and editing on, well, you've just done a really good explanation there of editing. I've had editing issues before now as well. When I did I said to someone before, when I did the James Bond group chat last year, because last year was 60 years of Dr. No, the first Bond film. Right, I thought, it'd be great to get a group of people together. And I think I did something a bit wrong, really. I put out an invite and said, you can all do this. And then I put the link in a public feed, so I put it out on Twitter,
Right.
this is the
Right.
link in a normal post, instead of having like a private group. I thought, oh, there's the post. And then I
Yeah.
think there ended up being 10 of us in the chat. and I had it on Zencastr at the time. So then at the end, I've got 10 different feeds of people's voices. And there were some issues with one or two of them where they kept coming out and coming back in. So I had one person, for instance, I had 4 different audio files for that person. And I had to work out where in the show these parts were. So I had to think, right, where does that go? Where does that go? Where does that go? Where does that go? And I'm like, okay. So it's almost like a jigsaw with that person.
Yeah.
And then people talking over themselves as well. The episode ended up being longer because everybody was coming out. So few people coming out with really good things at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have them talking over each other because it's just like a cacophony of noise. Yeah. And I thought, what can I do? Oh, I know. I can splice this and elongate it so that everybody gets the say in that are interested, but they're not talking over each other. You can hear it all distinct, you can hear it all really well.
Well done. Well, yeah, I'm sure that took a long time. Yeah. And a lot of energy. Yeah, it does. Yeah. That sounds much harder than what I had to go through. I'm actually feeling I'm good about myself now. Yeah.
You're okay till you get to 10 people. Keep going.
Exactly. Yeah.
So promoting it, you've done a really good job of promoting it on Instagram, for instance.
Thank you.
So what ways have you promoted the show?
Yeah, I've just noticed from the first season when I was finding my feet with like promotion and everything, like I find Instagram was the kind of big driver for it. So I've focused on that. And actually with season 2, it's weird. It's kind of swapped, and I find like Twitter is in terms of like other audio dramas willing to share your work and stuff like that. It's but I find yourself on Instagram, Marv. So yeah, like I'm a fan of both. And but definitely the stuff we made for, I have a friend who does a lot of video editing work. So I just asked if he would come and record us on the day. And then we did cast and writer interviews with myself as well. And that was all done in the kind of with Instagram in mind, and Instagram reels and putting videos up, just so there was some behind the scenes content, because for the first season it literally was just me doing caption videos from the episodes. And I was like, no, I'd really like some FaceTime with the cast, and so you can kind of put a face to the voice, and just so I had something to post on Instagram as well to keep people interested, or people who haven't quite listened to it yet. If you keep putting this stuff out there, they might go, okay, yes, I'll get into this now if they still follow the page. So it's quite interesting. It's I've definitely noticed, like you can see on the app I use, your listener numbers, and it's definitely season 2's definitely gone up. But I'm kind of I'm in a weird position where it's like, I know it's not the be all and end all social media, and like it shouldn't be a driver of your success, because you actually see the numbers of people is much bigger listening to it rather than actually engaging with your social media. And I've had this thought quite recently where I'm like, I hardly engage with stuff on social media as a viewer with anything that I really like. And what I mean by that is I don't comment on a lot of things and say, wow, it's really great. And that might be for like a big Marvel movie or like an indie thing. I just kind of like see it and kind of go, and then go about my day. And so I see that we have a lot of Spotify listeners and followers, and I'm sure a lot of those people just listen to the show and then go, oh, okay, right, time to go to my job now, or like do whatever they're doing. And so I'm like, if I'm like, oh, we don't have enough Instagram followers, we don't have enough Twitter followers, I'm kind of like, well, I know there are other people listening to it who don't need to actually engage with us directly. So I know that I'm making the show for them, and there is an audience. And most of your audience you probably never ever hear from directly, and you don't have to. So I'm just glad those statistics are out there on we use Spotify for podcasters, which was formerly Anchor, and they're pretty good with their analytics anyway. So it's just good to know. Yeah, we have I think over 500 Spotify followers. I think it might be a bit more now since season 2. I think it might be nearly 1,000. So that's awesome. That's much bigger than I ever thought it was going to be. but yeah, I've enjoyed making those little Instagram reels anyway. It's just been really nice. Because yeah, they are my mates, and it's good to like showcase them as actors and as the funny people that they are. And probably do it for season 3 as well. I don't know what we have planned, but yeah, I'll do more like Q&As and more behind the scenes stuff.
That's a good idea. I mean, if the engineer as well that you're hoping to get, you could also always do a thing where if he's creating a sound for the show, you could actually put a reel up, for instance, of him doing the Foley work for it, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Josh, my friend, he kind of recorded the whole day that we were in that recording studio, and I think he still has more stuff that he could show. So I might just get him to do the same thing, like you said, like every little detail for season 3, just like, and then that becomes like a little 1-minute Instagram reel where it's just like, oh, this is how we did the sound effects. This is how we did the dialogue. This is it should definitely do more of it, but also I'm sure you're very aware as well. You're on Instagram and all the socials. It takes a lot of your energy, and you just want to focus on your work, you know. And there's literal companies who just have marketing teams, you know. And when you're doing it yourself, I'm sure any podcaster listening or watching this will attribute and completely get it. Drains you a little bit. So thank you for noticing, or thank you for saying the social media stuff was good, because really did try with it this season as well.
Let's face it, all of us that are doing these podcasts without a big team behind us, you've got the problem that, you know, we're doing this because we love doing it, but we also have lives with other people involved that we have to allow time for as well.
Yeah, and I don't beat myself up about it if I feel like the social media side isn't going well, or it's just like, oh, this didn't get as much engagement as this thing, because like social media, it's the thing is, it's just as good as podcasting. Your episodes are always there. People can listen to it at any time, and people can go on your Instagram, just flick through and go, oh, they don't really care if the post was from last year. They kind of go, oh, this is a great little supplement to it, I suppose. So this has become like a little bit of advice for social media. I think I do think it's important, actually. Yeah, if any podcasters are listening, I know you can get yourself down on, oh, I'm not getting as much likes as some other Instagram show or Instagram podcast, but as long as you're making the stuff and you can kind of like promote it in the future, you know, Instagram is everlasting. It's not going to go anywhere. Social media is everlasting. It's all a very fluid thing. So as long as you're getting the content on there, it's good.
Yeah, that information is still out there. James Gunn should have realised that and deleted it before all that stuff was found.
Yeah, yeah. Be careful what you put on. Yeah, that's a good side note. Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe I said that.
Yeah.
So the next one. I mean, I always like this because I'm a big fan of time travel related media. So, what are your personal with this show? Do you have rules for this? For them talking between time, have you set rules there in place that you follow with the writing?
Not really too much, because I'm not going to really sell myself as a writer here, but definitely the whole tone of the show is two people who don't know a lot in terms of science or physics or time travel in general. You know, they're very much your everyday people. And the story's a lot about friendship and finding someone new and really connecting with them as much as it is about science and time travel, which I'm a big fan of anyway, in science fiction. So the tone was always meant to be very lighthearted and not take itself too seriously and not take the science very seriously. But then you still have the central character, Lewis, who, you know, lists all the other time travel rules of Back to the Future. You know, it's like, don't tell anyone that we're talking right now because you could change things, you know. And it's, you know, like the butterfly effect, you know, you change one thing in the past, it'll erase his future, or he's worried that things will start disappearing, like his family or like a building will disappear because of what Callum in the 90s, something he might change. But, you know, that's why I put in, there's an episode, bit in the episode where he carves his name into a tree in the 90s so he can see it in the future.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah, I stole that from Doctor Who. Like you can probably tell a lot of things that I stole from Doctor Who, or paid homage to. That's like a Quentin Tarantino kind of thing, you know. I think it's the 50th anniversary special where they get stuck in the prison, and he carves the message so that someone can see it in the future. It's the companion at the time, Clara, isn't it? So I just thought that was a funny like little motif where it's like, how could they connect? That's what I was thinking. And the thing that makes it unique is that to do another little spoiler, it's that they are talking through time, but they're also in the exact same place. They're in the same building. So I just thought, what could they use around them to communicate, to kind of prove to each other that, you know, one of them's not making it up. So yeah, like he carves the thing in the tree from like 30 years ago, and then he sees it in the future. So little things like that, just to put in to like hint at how the time travel world works. But I didn't really want to focus on. I want to focus more on their relationship. And I think the second season, it gets a lot more scientific because one of the characters is a scientist, and she, another slight spoiler, she is the one who created the wormhole that connects all of them, and that happens to be in their building over the 3 times that they're in. So you got 1999, 2022, 2023, and then 2052, and they're all connected by this wormhole that she's created. So yeah, it was very apparent. It was very deliberate to be like, let's amp up the science fiction and the time travel aspect of the show, but still keep into the roots of the show where they just talk about nostalgic things and where they compare each other's times. And yeah, he's like disgusted that she's eating mealworms, but you know, she's okay with it because, you know, it's actually quite normal for her in that time, you know.
So what is your favorite time travel media then? I mean, would that be Doctor Who? And, you know, we've already mentioned Back to the Future. I mean, have you got any others that you love?
I mean, I just have to say Doctor Who is the trumps everything, if I'm honest. And I'm sure anyone who loves time travel will have experienced it at some form or other. But, you know, I loved the Russell T Davies era whenever he brought it back in 2005. And a lot of my writing, I think, is definitely influenced by that in general, because I think he's a great writer. You know, he's someone I aspire to be because he loves science fiction. He did Doctor Who, but he did it in a really grounded, dramatic way, and did it with really good characters. Obviously the Doctor himself, but all the side characters as well. And he goes off and writes other very hard-hitting dramas like It's a Sin, you know, and then he's coming back for this iteration of Doctor Who for the 60th anniversary, which I'm very much looking forward to. It's airing this Saturday, isn't it?
Yep.
Are you a fan yourself, Marv? I haven't asked.
I am. Yep. Yeah. Very much. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
So yeah, that's definitely up there. But Twilight Zone, I think, is a great kind of example in terms of just the way those stories are told. And, you know, I haven't seen all of the episodes of the Twilight Zone, but I definitely grew up watching it. My dad was a big fan. So sometimes episodes would just be on and I would catch an episode or two. And yeah, just little, because Twilight Zone is always about little, talking about tight storytelling, you know, they have, you know, they're very short episodes and they have to say so much and deal with a massive science fiction plot in such a short amount of time. That was definitely an inspiration. And obviously, you know, they do a lot of science fiction tropes, but obviously time travel is one of them. And Back to the Future, obviously, because it is the quintessential time travel story, and quite rightly, you know, it's amazing how much in other time travel things that have been taken since takes from Back to the Future. It's not quite spoken about how much they invented of the kind of like time travel lexicon, you know.
Well, they even reference Back to the Future in the Avengers Endgame. I think it's mentioned in there. A lot of these films where they'll talk about time travel nowadays, they will basically say, "Oh, but like Back to the Future."
Yeah.
They even say, "Oh, like Back to the Future" in these films. So
yeah,
you know that they're inspired by that.
Exactly. It should be, if anyone's ever thinking of writing a time travel story, there is a myriad of stuff you can watch, but you really should start at Back to the Future. That should be your starting off point, and then you can do whatever after that. But In terms of making a lighthearted adventure, it's just very good. Yeah, it's definitely up there. Yeah, I can't say. Yeah, it definitely, just because this is a British show as well, podcast show. Doctor Who. There's not too many British sci-fi stuff apart from Hitchhiker's Guide and Red Dwarf to an extent and all that. There obviously is, but not like widely known. I would say like a global audience. I think Doctor Who is the biggest one. I'm sure someone can name a bunch of stuff. But
Probably.
Yeah. It was made with kind of like British sci-fi in mind, and to be inspired by that kind of stuff.
I wish I'd done my research now, because there is a show. I watched a couple of episodes of it back in the day, and I wish I'd have finished watching the series. But there was an attempt at a time travel show that starred the EastEnders actor Michael French, where what he used to do, I think he used to go back 24 hours or something to try and change something or other. But I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but it was a decent premise of a show.
Yeah. I'm not sure. There's been a bunch of stuff like things on ITV ever since Doctor Who came out. They did, that kind of like Saturday tea time slot of like British sci-fi shows. But So Doctor Who's up there, and I'm excited for it coming back, honestly. This is just an advert for the Doctor Who 60th anniversary. It's kind of
it is really. Yep.
Yeah, really. I work for the BBC.
If Russell wants to send some money, then I'll give him money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they don't need us at all, but yeah,
they really
it's exciting. Don't. It's exciting anyway.
I'm going to shout out a film while we're just talking about time travel.
Yeah,
I mean, I love the H.G. Wells novel, the Time Machine. That's superb film.
That's another quintessential. That should be a starting off point. Actually, it is. It's one of the OGs. Yeah.
Have you ever seen while we're in that sort of area? Have you seen the film Time After Time with Malcolm McDowell?
No.
And David Warner. So no. David Warner plays Jack the Ripper. Okay. Yeah. And so this is the late 1800s, and Malcolm McDowell plays H.G. Wells, who actually has a time machine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In his basement. And Jack the Ripper somehow or another gets into his basement and uses the time machine to go to 1978, I think it is, or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And then H.G. Wells goes and follows him into the 1978 to go and find him. And the idea is to bring him back, but I'm not going to give away any more about that. But there's an interesting one that people might not know of.
It's Malcolm McDowell, did you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's a big fan of him. He always tells me his movie. So I'm going to quote him. I'm going to say to him, do you know this? I'm sure he does. Yeah. I'm sure he's seen that movie and countless others of Malcolm McDowell's movies. So, I'll quiz him on that and see.
That's a good idea. If he doesn't know about it, you could have one up on him.
Yeah, I know more about you than Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I went to uni with him, and he had a big poster of Malcolm McDowell. So yeah, that's how I know he loves him, and he talks about him all the time. Yeah, one of his favorite actors.
Hey, it's Rena, host of the Better Call Daddy Show, where I interview guests, share the stories with my dad, and then he weighs in. And you're listening to Pods Like Us.
So, I think we could skip number 11 on the list of tips for creating audio drama, because it's already been like a tutorial for audio drama producers, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, we have covered everything, and like it covering all this, it feels like it's amazing how we got this made, because it's very much a DIY, do it yourself. Let's see what happens, and we've tried to keep that mentality for season 2 as well, even though we stepped up a lot of things in terms of recording, going to the studio. And we'll try to keep it for season 3 as well, because I'm funding it myself, so I'm trying to find all the best creative ways to do it. But in terms of I don't know, advice for anyone, just do it. And everyone's creating podcasts at the moment, but some people might feel that they have limitations, but no, like we've said, we did this in the living room, and you just got to believe in your writing and your passion for it, and that always shines through. And audience members realize a lot of limitations that people have at the moment, because everything's franchised, everything's shared universes and big, corporate companies on streaming. So people actually do recognize that a lot of indie creators, whether it be podcasts or films or TV, whatever, have these limitations, and it's not easy to break in. And they as long as the story is good and they can kind of be involved with it as well in terms of social media and stuff. So I know I've kind of sounded like I knocked it a while ago, but it is important, but as long as you involve your audience, and I think that's half the battle. Just getting your work out there. Just do it. Yeah.
So that basically would probably be the same exact for the next one, which is advice for anyone wanting to start a podcast. You'd say exactly what you've just said, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting whether it depends whether you're doing, because I know you interview a lot of non-fiction podcasts, which is the bulk of podcasting, I suppose. Audio fiction is quite a small corner of that, and it is growing. That's the thing. I want to do a shout out as well, because actually the Dial Up has just joined the Apollo Podcasts network, which is a platform purely just for audio fiction podcasts. So it is a platform that you can download onto your phone. And all you just have to type it as Apollo Podcasts and it'll come up. And you can listen to a multitude of fiction podcasts on there, but also they have a subscription service called Apollo Plus, which the Dial Up has just joined. And you get to listen to the Dial Up and lots of other fiction podcast shows, ad-free. There's a lot of bonus content on there as well. That's what you pay for in the subscription, and lots of the shows. So that's something I'm in the middle of at the moment, is editing a bunch of bonus materials that we've done when recording season 2 with Apollo Plus in mind. So we didn't run adverts anyway. So whenever you listen to the podcast, the Dial Up on Spotify now, it just comes up with a message at the front with about Apollo Plus. But all the bonus content, if you want to listen to that, that's going to be on Apollo Plus. Exclusively for I don't know how long, and then maybe we will release it, on the main feed. But we don't have a Patreon yet, or any of those or Ko-fi, coffee. How do you say it? Coffee. I sound like such a.
I know.
I think is it Ko-fi or coffee?
I can't remember. I know they have buymeacoffee.com or whatever it's called.
That's the one.
Is it called Is it called Ko-fi? I know that's how the Americans spell the name Ko-fi.
Yeah. Oh right. Okay. Yeah. No, it's I just know it's that one. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same as, because the idea is donate the $3, whatever. Yeah, the price of a coffee. But it's spelled Ko-fi as in sci-fi. So is that how you say it? Anyway, so we don't have that, and I'm really hoping Apollo takes up the bulk of that, because I would love to do Patreon and things like that. But I'm really excited by Apollo, because it seems to be like a really good amalgamation of all those things that podcasters are using. What's the advice for fiction podcasters, or what do I think needs to be done? I've always said when I started, there needs to be a good platform for fiction podcasts. There already is, obviously. That's what makes podcasting so great. You can just get an RSS feed, and then it goes on to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and people are really impressed by that. And it's like, wow, you're on Spotify, and that's so cool. But it's just I think Apollo Plus, as it grows, is just gonna be so good, because it's just fiction podcasts. It's a platform that's exclusive just on your phone, separately from Spotify, which might help it in terms of, because like all the other podcasts are on there, but this is fiction podcast. These are audio stories, and I kind of lost my train of thought, but that's what the fiction podcasting world needs, is that like exclusivity. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, and hopefully it'll lead to bigger and better things on Apollo.
I think taking as well from what you've already said while we've been talking, as another piece of advice to go to is like Philip has, you learn while you're creating as well. So your show will end. Don't be scared of adapting to situations, so that our show starts, or how you start your show, it can change over time. So your quality of show will change as it goes along as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And just to reiterate that, like if you listen to any other interviews with fiction podcast creators who maybe started their show around the same time I did or a little bit earlier, you're going to hear the exact same thing. It's just like, oh, we listened back to our first season now and we cringe, and the quality of it is so much different to how it sounds now. And it's so true. And I think the important thing to take away from that is what I've already said, is I think audiences are just much more understanding of that now, especially podcasts, especially for fiction podcasts or whatever podcasts. Might work for different mediums, but they just know that a lot of people do have to just start from nothing. And even if it's a non-fiction podcast, you might preface it going, sorry about the sound qualities, it's for this reason, blah, blah, blah. Creators are just becoming much more open with their audiences. And just, I think, modern audiences at the moment are just going along with that. So you shouldn't be afraid of bad quality. And obviously you should strive to make it better as the further you go along. But just know that, the important thing is getting your stuff out there first, and then improving as you go along, and definitely adapting to whatever situation you're in. But just knowing that you're passionate about your work, and if you are, then that'll always shine through. Absolutely.
So with that in mind, what sort of podcast do you like to listen to yourself?
Okay, well, I'm really strange with as a fiction podcast creator, but I, like a lot of people, listen to football podcasts and anything to take my mind off, or just to wind down. So it's a lot. I listen to a lot of news podcasts, all the kind of like newscast, and the one from the Times newspaper and the news agents and all that. And I'm a massive football fan, so I listen to the Totally Football Show and the BBC Football Show. And so I a lot of my podcast listening I do at the end of the night. And I when I'm pretty much going to bed or going to sleep, I'll leave it on and just use that as kind of white noise to go to sleep. I always find it interesting how people consume podcasts, whatever podcast it is, like throughout the day or whatever they're doing at the gym or on a run or something, or just walking to work. But that's when I listen to my podcast. I definitely listened to so much more audio dramas since I started doing the dial-up. And just like the dial-up, my favorite genre is sci-fi, anything to do with time travel or space travel or anything like that. So I'd like to do a shout out for, we were talking just before recording, weren't we? Like a lot of the shows that I like remain in touch with are shows that started like pretty much at the exact same time of the dial-up, and I've had like such a good like little dialogue with them. You've got the Dex Legacy, which I think is a really good, almost, it's kind of like a space Game of Thrones, very epic multi-character show set far in the future on another planet. It's really cool. You've got Haunted, the audio drama, which is a really good like anthology based show. And we were talking earlier about, you got the dial-up with bite-sized episodes. They are huge. They've created hundreds of episodes, and all with really cool original stories, and different stories as well. They're very inspired by Doctor Who as well, and the X-Files, I would say. But every story of theirs goes to a different location, different monster that they're dealing with just like these like really cool, fun central characters. So if you're looking for audio drama to listen to for days on end, that's one you should definitely listen to. And then the Chronicles of Wild Hollow, who I know you've had on the show before, who that their show is awesome, and I just want to shout out their artwork, because their continued just artwork that they share on social media and everything is unrivaled, compared to so many other podcasts. So their name should be spoken about a lot more. Yeah, and I've just noticed recently, I don't know if you've seen on the there's a lot of adverts. I live in London. On the Tube, there's been adverts for like the new Buffy audio series.
Yep, Slayers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I never watched Buffy when I was younger. Definitely, I mean, I was definitely on the TV, but I was never like a massive fan, so I can't really relate too much to it. But I'm really glad to see that as an audio series gets so much attention as it has. Obviously, because it's Buffy, and that it was massive back in the day. But just in terms of seeing an Audible, I know it's Audible and they are the biggest company, but just in terms of seeing that on an advert on the Tube, you know, that speaks volumes about where audio fiction is going, and I hope it just keeps getting better and bigger, basically. Yeah.
Shout out to Amber Benson there for the writing on Slayers. She's an incredible writer, and she was in the series Buffy as the character Tara as well. Right.
Okay. See, this is going over my head because I don't know any of the Buffy characters apart from Buffy and Angel and Spike.
Yep. Well done.
I watched a bit of it, I promise. Yeah, but Buffy, Angel, Spike, and Tara. Who played?
Tara was played by Amber Benson. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Alison Hannigan played Willow.
Yes, I remember that character now. Yes.
And
wait, hold on. Giles?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I was
Anthony
a fan.
Stewart Head.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just a secret fan. Yeah. I'm letting on that I never watched it, but actually I really did. No. Obviously it was massive back in the day. My point is that it's awesome that it's an audio series and it's getting as much attention, and maybe that is what needs to happen in terms of just like whatever your thoughts of it are. If like say like a Stranger Things audio series came out, I would definitely listen to that, you know. So it's just good for the medium in general, I suppose, and just can only help maybe my audio series and other indie audio creators if more people are on the likes of Audible, and then they'll go on Spotify and go, oh, I want to listen to the other shows, and then they might find mine, and they might find your show, they might find, you never know.
I mean, I listen to on Audible. There's French and Saunders. They do a show called Titting About.
Okay, cool. Love French and Saunders. So
and that's basically just them full of anecdotes and things that, you know. I mean the first episode that was about medical and, you know, and that is probably a bit too honest with some of their medical things that they've gone through.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think it was Jennifer Saunders, or no, Dawn French was saying something about, you know, a handsome young doctor shouldn't be going there.
Oh, right. Okay. They go very.
But we'll leave it at that, shall we? Yeah.
Okay. I'm checking it out. Yeah, I'm going for it.
Anyway, so where can people find you, Philip, and how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. Yeah. Instagram and Twitter are the best places if you want to follow along on social media. To the Instagram reels that we've already mentioned, it's Dial Up Pod, all one word, and that's the same for Instagram and Twitter. And then just search for us on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're everywhere. It's the Dial -up. I can't stress the hyphen as much as I can. It actually, there's a few other podcasts that aren't audio dramas called Dial, or there's like Dial Up Bros or something like that, and that just Dial Up. But I put the hyphen in there because that, like, Dial Up Internet has a hyphen in it. So I was like, right, that's what the show is going to be called. It's not going to be anything different. It's the Dial -up. So yeah, make sure that hyphen is in there and you'll find us. And like you said, the logo is a smartphone opposite a device. So that's what we look like if you want to find us.
Yep. And thank God we don't have the sound of dial-up nowadays.
Oh, but it's nice though, because it's like it is for anyone who hasn't listened to the show, it is our opening theme. I opened the show with the dial-up sound. That's nostalgic, isn't it?
It
It is
is.
annoying. It is annoying, but
Yeah.
it's funny because at the time during dial-up internet, you were like, oh, this is so annoying. And then, when you tried to pick up the phone when you were using dial-up internet, it would give you a horrible feedback. So I'm sure it was very annoying at the time, is what you're alluding to. And now I'm like, no, this is really nice. We were all really happy with dial-up internet, but maybe we weren't.
It took ages to be able to connect. Mind you, it still does sometimes now.
Yeah, exactly. Dial-up is still a thing. That was something that I was maybe going to explore writing the show. Like, well, maybe I still will. There's a third season coming out, by the way, just to do a little shout out with that. I haven't wrote the scripts yet, but anyone who's listened to the show is waiting for season 3. It definitely is coming. I'm just working on some other writing projects at the moment that I haven't been able to do because of the dial-up, but I definitely will hopefully get it done at the start of next year. And yeah, the second season actually ended in a big cliffhanger, which I won't say. Just definitely go listen to it. But everything will be revealed in a third and final season. It is going to be the last one. So
yeah, it's got a bit tricky because I found this with a few audio dramas that I listen to. I've made a decision now that with the notes that I do, because everybody knows I write a blog about what I listen to.
Yeah.
So I've made a conscious decision with a lot of audio shows now, audio dramas. I will purposely try to, in some ways, I almost don't put anything down anywhere at all detail wise, because the problem you've got with a lot of audio dramas that aren't anthologies, but they carry on a story that carries through, is that there's the danger that whatever I put could potentially spoil people's listening, and they'll be like, oh God, I know that's going to happen now. I don't need to listen. So
that's fair enough. Yeah. I totally get what you're saying. We've had to talk about things in my show because, you have to explain it, but also they are spoilers, I suppose. But yeah, no, well, let's leave that last spoiler completely free then. Like that, if you want to be completely surprised by the ending of it, and it is a big surprise in terms of the overall story, please do give it a listen. And it feeds directly into what will be season 3, which I know I have a rough idea in my head how the whole story is going to go, but I'm very excited to write it. All I will say is it will just continue the same format of comparing times and look into the past, look into the future. But yeah, there's just more to come from it. Let's just say that. Yeah, there's much more. Yeah.
And even if you do hear spoilers and that, it's not going to spoil the show completely, because one of the best things about it is the dialogue between the characters.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you. Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of the good stuff about it is just like the jokes between them and the lightheartedness of them. If you think it is like a super serious sci-fi drama, it is, but it's also very funny as well. So if that sounds right up your street, then definitely check it out. And like you said, the episodes are bite-sized. You can listen to it on your walk to work or walk to the gym or whatever. Yeah, it's a nice, fun, bite-sized series.
Especially the first season, you could probably watch that on one commute to work.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Anyway, thanks for speaking with me today, Philip.
Absolute pleasure. No, thank you for having me, and for so long as well. We've really chatted. So thank you.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. That's why we've talked for so long, I think, is because it's just, it's talk. You don't want to cut it, do you? If you have a good chat, then you don't want to cut it off.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I hope we've covered we've covered so much, haven't I? But I feel like, have I sold the series? I don't know. But yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely get out there and check it out. And I should probably go and write season 3 right now, shouldn't I? I don't know.
Or finish that play that you're supposed to be finishing.
Yeah. I'm writing a play at the moment. Yeah. I'll write. Yeah. It's good to be writing. Let's just say that. It's nice.
It's good to have work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
anyway,
thank you, Marv. Thank you.
No problem. You can find Pods Like Us on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok. And we can be contacted through podslikeus@gmail.com. If you go to Patreon, even though you've not got one, I have got a Patreon.
Nice.
And it costs £1 per month. And you get extra bits and pieces like just today, I've put up a review of that. I mentioned to you Tomorrow's Monsters, an audio drama. And I've got a review on there and some other bits as well that I've put on there. What else have I put on there recently? Oh, I've put a hack or a tip for people to do with sound as well, which is like a cheap one. So I'm using a Pop Shield, but it's like an alternative that you could use. It's an old studio trick that people can use if they want to. And it cuts down on some like popping sound when you use P's or B's and things like that. It sort of like helps with that. So little bits like that I had on there that don't go on the main feed, really.
Oh, cool. Okay, you've totally sold it. I want to learn that trick, so I'm going to subscribe to your Patreon. £1. That's easy. Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's go for it. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us. What the heck is going on there?
Hello.
Hello?
I'm here.
It's all right. I can hear static.
Yes. Yeah, I can hear that too. You want me to mute myself and see if it's me?
I think it's me.
Okay.
I think because I've had to move all this room back again because it was all in a different order.
Right. Okay. You got to figure out.
How the heck am I going to do this? Gone.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Well done.
The Wi-Fi box was underneath the 4-track recorder.
And I was picking it up.
Yep.
Wow, that's what Wi-Fi sounds like. That's that was disconcerting.
It's better than what dial-up used to sound like.
Yeah, exactly.